later on in life, obviously, you get a little bit older, and it's one of those things you wish you would have taken a lot serious at a younger age. But yeah, just going out playing with the boys and kind of got me back into it. And then you recatch that bug, and once you recatch that bug, it's game on from there.
This is The Tournament Code.
Brock, we know about you. We know you're caddying out there on the Korn Ferry. But before we start talking about that, and there's a lot of questions we got about that, let's start where we start with everybody, which is the beginning. Tell us about how you got into the game of golf.
Yeah, sure. So I grew up here in Charleston, South Carolina, which there's a lot of great golf courses obviously here. And we were kind of raised into it. My older brother more so than any of us. He was pretty much born with the club in his hand. Was a really good junior player. We all played what was called CSCJGA, which is junior golf here pretty much in South Carolina. Funny enough, my siblings were always a lot better than I was. I was kind of I loved the game, but I was like hot-headed, I'd hit a shot and I'd be the kid that, the 11-year-old out there crying, throwing clubs. I wasn't when it's time to compete or quote unquote compete in junior golf, I wasn't the best, needless to say. So yeah, I kind of was was raised into it at a young age and didn't really play a lot after kind of life things happened and went elsewhere with my life, and golf wasn't really an option, if you will. So yeah, I didn't really get back into golf until later on in life. Started playing. Realized, that's what I wanted to do with my life. I'm not good enough to be a professional golfer. What's the next best thing? It's become a caddy. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Did you play any other sports growing up or anything in the meantime?
Yeah, so I played football. Football was my sport, man. I played defensive back, which a little short guy, but I was at least pretty quick at a young age. So that's probably all I had going for me. And I like to hit people, so that helped out a lot too. I was never, really good by any means, but had a big heart, and I love sports and love the game and what it can do for people. So I think that that took me a long way for sure.
That's a good thing to have in a caddy too. I can imagine having that love for the game and wanting to be around. So you said you got back into the game of golf. Tell us a little bit about what got you back into the game of golf and what like your transition and path to being a caddy looks like.
Sure. Yeah. So, later on in life, obviously, you get a little bit older, and it's one of those things you wish you would have taken a lot serious at a younger age. But yeah, just going out playing with the boys and kind of got me back into it. And then you recatch that bug, and once you recatch that bug, it's game on from there. So I was actually working at the time before I started caddying. I was a chef, and when I wasn't in the kitchen, I was on the golf course 7 days a week because that's where my passion was. That's where I went to mellow down and kind of take it all in, and my therapy, quote unquote, if you will. So yeah, I was just tired of being in the kitchen, man, and realized, hey, maybe this is something I want to chase. So I ended up starting to club caddy out at Kiowa here in Charleston, and didn't really know how I wanted to get to the next level in caddying. I kind of took it in stride and just kind of did the club caddying thing for a while. And then realized, I love this. I love the knowledge of the game. I love being able to possibly help somebody be better or succeed, if you will, in the game. So I decided to try and start caddying on the Korn Ferry Tour. The way I did it was a little different than everyone else does. Most of those guys are either college teammates or they're ex-players or what have you. I'm a 10 handicap, so I'm not a great golfer by any means. I know what to do. It's just doing it. You guys are well-oiled machines, as I like to say, pro golfers are, and even college golfers, man. It's just they have the same swing over and over, and it's just little minor things, and it's crazy how talented those guys are. But yeah, so like I said, I kind of got into it a little different than everyone else did. I would go on the leaderboard, started going on the leaderboards and seeing guys that were kind of struggling, maybe were looking to, make a caddy change or something like that, if you will. And reached out, shot my shot with a bunch of guys. And, a lot of guys never even replied. And luckily, my first bag that I started working on was Alexandre Roca, who's a vet. And he wanted a newer guy without tour experience, kind of wanted a guy that he could kind of train to caddy the way he wanted to be caddied. so yeah, he gave me a chance, man, and hired me, and I've been rolling ever since. So yeah.
What was that first week on the bag like in the Korn Ferry Tour event?
Man,
Coming straight off of the club caddying.
it was a culture shock for sure. I thought I knew what caddying was, and I had absolutely no idea. The first week was crazy. My first event was in Raleigh at Wakefield Plantation. My first grouping pairing ever was with Mark Hubbard and Ben On. So that was just crazy to be able to, go from caddying for 24 handicaps and seeing, arguably two of the best golfers right now at this time, two guys that are really, really good. And it was definitely a culture shock, man. I thought caddying was a certain type of way, and I realized really quick that it's a completely different game on tour. There's a lot more that goes into it than just giving a number and giving a read on a putt. So it was great though, man. It was awesome. We ended up top 10ing that week. I don't know how much of that was my doing because I don't think I read a putt all week, or it was just mostly number club. Here it is, bam, bam, bam. So, but it was great, man. It was awesome to be able to finish top 10 and kind of get a good little feeling of what a decent little paycheck is like on the Korn Ferry Tour, and ended up next week missing the cut, so got brought back down to earth really quickly. But yeah, man, it was awesome for sure.
You mentioned there's a lot more things than you thought you would need to know
Sure.
in order to be a really good caddy. So like break down some of those specific skills that you need to have as a caddy and just what a week looks like.
Yeah, man. So 9 times out of half the battle is finding somebody that you can be with for 8 hours to 10 hours a day on a daily basis, city to city. And I had never done that. I I'd caddy for a round for people, and if I saw them again, I saw them again. If not, I didn't. But it was just, I guess, yeah, in that aspect, stop barking. In that aspect, to, how do I say this? Be able to figure out someone's personality and knowing what they like and what they don't like, certain things to say. Obviously, you got the obvious things. You're not, you don't talk about the only bunker that's there, or the water that's all down the left side that we don't want to hit into, obviously. And those were things I had to learn because as a club caddy, you got to tell these people, hey, look here, we have got to miss this. And these guys are so good on tour, man. You don't even have to say that. You give them a line. You tell them this is where we finish. This is the club all day long, and this is perfect. And you let them get up and do their thing at that point. So, yeah, I guess that's the main thing is just being more personable, which I didn't have to do that in club caddying. You just kind of be nice and you ride it to the end, and then you get tipped and you're on about your way. And that's completely different now that you're with a guy more than you're with your significant other, and you kind of feel them out and find things that you can say during the round that aren't going to take their mind completely off the game. Because, you got a task at hand. Obviously, you're trying to win a golf tournament, but you don't want them stressing over every single shot, obviously. You want to make it as easy as possible for them to, go out and do what they do best. Their name's on their bag for a reason, and they're at that level of golf for a reason. They're good enough to be there, and you're just kind of the voice in the background giving them confirmation that, this is what we're supposed to be doing, and this is perfect. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I think you hit on something important there, and insightful as well, and very, very self-aware. And that is, at the end of the day, the caddy, pretty much everybody but the player, is not the star of the show. The player's the star of the show, and you're there to help make them better. And
100%.
I haven't been in that position, but as a lawyer, like I have an intern that works with me, and there's a certain way I want to work with my intern. I want my intern to do X, Y, and Z, and here's the standard I hold them to, and here's what I want out of them. If they just do their job, like I can handle the rest. They just have to be competent at the few of those things. And I can imagine going from being a club caddy to, as you mentioned, caddying for Roca, like that could be, as you said, a culture shock. So tell us a little bit about finding that fit as far as like learning how to support them and play that supporting role, because despite being a supporting role doesn't mean you're not important. It just and not being the starter role doesn't mean you're not important. It just means that you got to be good at what you do, providing that support.
Yeah. So, I mean, in the beginning, big thing for me was, I was very kind of I don't want to say walking on eggshells, but I didn't want to mess up, because I knew I was getting a great opportunity, and if I saw a putt that, he had read and I saw a little bit more in the beginning, I was very hesitant to even, kind of say something just because he's Roca is first of all, he's a great guy to work for, and I learned so much from that guy. He taught me a lot about the game and course management things that still I use to this day that have gone a long way. And yeah, so I mean, in the beginning, I was just kind of a mule, if you will, and just kind of did what he told me to do. And I wouldn't really step in on shots, or if I liked a certain club, I wouldn't even say it, kind of, sort of. And whether that hurt us or not, I don't know. But I think I needed to do that for a little while and kind of take it all in and kind of just realize that there are certain times to say something, and there's certain times that there's, you just let your player do what they're going to do. Cause like I said before, they're good enough and they got to this level, doing what they do. So, yeah, I don't know if that answers that perfectly, but yeah.
No, it's good. What do you think is the hardest part about being a caddy on the Korn Ferry Tour?
It's a grind, man. I mean, obviously I don't do it for the money. If you're caddying for money, you're not doing, you need to pick something else, obviously, because it's not the best money in the world, mind you. Ted Scott's made a killing this year, but he's working for arguably the greatest golfer of our generation. So it's not about the money. It's tough, man. It's a grind. If you got a loved one, I have a fiance. She's a lawyer here in Charleston as well. So she stays pretty busy herself, obviously. And I have a dog who's pretty much my child that I miss so much on the road, and just the family aspect of it is pretty difficult, and it's not for everybody. It's something that you kind of got to get used to, and you just got to realize that you're going to be away from your loved ones, most of the year, if you will. And, so that's a grind part of it as well. And then just the back end of the work, the stress and stuff, people just see that we're on a golf course every single day, going city to city. They think I'm absolutely living the life, which I consider, I do love it. I do. But there's back end stuff that people don't know, the stress of being on the cut line and having 8 holes to play. And, you got 3 really tough holes coming up, and, the back end stress that goes into it, which I love. I love it. It's all part of the game. It's part of the competition. But yeah, man, just I'd say that the most difficult thing about it is probably, being away from your family and your loved ones for so long. But in the back of your mind, you got to know you're doing it for a reason, and you're chasing a dream, and you're trying to help whoever you're working for to make it to the next level. You kind of just want to be a little part in their story, making it to the big leagues,
Absolutely. I think something that people like to hear about, like when we talk about PGA Tour broadcasts, etc., one of the recurring complaints is, you have the announcers talking over players. You don't get to hear the caddy player conversation. So kind of one of the things I maybe would like to do here is we obviously can't recreate that, but what I would like to hear is kind of have you walk us through your first season with Roca, like how the events went, like a little bit about the travel, and then
Sure.
Also how you were preparing, how you learned to prepare. Because I imagine like early on, your preparation for events, as you said, changed over time. So tell us a little bit about that, and take as much time as you want on that too.
Yeah, so working for Roca, obviously, like I said, was great. I mean, he kind of knew what he wanted. He's a pro's pro. He's done it for a long time. He kind of knew what he wanted walking into every single shot. He was pretty well prepared. My yardage books, if you look at them from my first, 5, 6, even really, just the first year in general last year, my yardage books will probably look pretty poor, and there's not a whole lot of information in there just because I, had to learn on the fly. And as you go, learning how to mark up a yardage book and get as much information in there as possible. And I was really gung-ho about, wanting to walk with vets. I'd like to go walk the golf course with guys that have done it before. And I was just be kind of a sponge, just soaking up, don't ever think, something you're going to tell me is dumb. Because if I want to know whatever it is, whatever you're going to tell me, I'm going to take it and I'm going to run with it. So just little things, that take you a long way on the golf course. That definitely took a little while to kind of figure out and realize that there was a certain way to go about that. Everybody's got their own way to do it, how they walk a course and how they kind of get the information that they get. But with Roca, it was pretty simple, if I do say so. He didn't need a lot of information. He just wanted to know the number, and what's the front number, back number, what's the number to the pin, where are we going to hit this, what's the carry number over this bunker. There wasn't really much strategic thought that goes into it, kind of like how I am now with Jacob, if that makes sense. So yeah, it definitely took a little while to kind of just pick different guys' brains and see how guys did it themselves, because even through college golf, these guys have been coached up by the best guys in the world, and they have been taught course management skills that I never would have heard of, in that aspect, just not growing up in the college golf scene or competitive golf really in that aspect. So yeah, just soaking up little things like that, learning how to dissect a golf course and kind of just make it as simple as possible, have enough information to where your guy can go out there and just swing the golf club and know that he's hitting the right club 24/7. And yeah, obviously, it's not always perfect. We're human. You can get a gust or something can happen, and you're looking at the club, you're looking at the sprinkler head, making sure you hit the right club and made the right decision there. But yeah, it's still a learning process for sure, man, and I'm still learning as I go. But I can definitely say that I've, as opposed to like the first couple of weeks being out there to now, I feel a lot more comfortable approaching golf courses, and it doesn't matter if it's someplace I've never seen before. I kind of know how to attack it and get pretty familiar with it pretty quickly.
What are some of those strategy conversations look like with you and Jacob as opposed to you and Alexander?
So Roca, like I said before, was just really pretty simple as it gets, number. And in that aspect, Jacob is too as well. We played with Josh Teeter, great golfer. I think he went to Morehead. No, he went to Kentucky. Did he go to Morehead State?
No, he went to Morehead.
Okay, cool. Good deal. So
everybody always wants to say he went to UK.
Yeah, exactly.
He went to Morehead.
So he even said last week, man, it's a breath of fresh air to play with a young kid that comes out and likes to step up to the ball and just hit it. Because a lot of these, younger guys that are coming out now are very methodical, and they're used to having their coach in their ear and, all right, let's think about this, where this and this. But with on my end, and Jacob as well, we pretty much got to get a really good idea. We treat our practice rounds pretty seriously, kind of figuring out where to miss, where's good. Obviously, the normal stuff that everybody does. But Jacob's definitely very mature in that aspect, to where he knows, what he wants, and he wants to make it as simple as possible for himself. It's almost the point, he'll make a putt, and we're walking to the next tee box. I haven't even taken out my yardage book, and he's already saying, all right, this 3-wood today, or it's this 3-iron today. And we'll talk about why, and sometimes we won't talk about why. If he's feeling it and he's ready to rock and roll, and I give him the wind and tell him, pick out a good line, pick a target and hit it there. So yeah, it's definitely different working for the two, but it's not better. I don't know how to say it. It's not better than working for Roca. It's just I feel like I have more of a voice, if that makes sense. Like he cares about knowing that I put a lot of back end work into it. And yeah, he likes to know what I think about something. And if I don't like something he's going to do, he wants to know why. Why is my decision better than what he's thinking at the time? And yeah, it wasn't really like that with Roca. Roca kind of knew what he wanted to do, and he was going to do it regardless of, kind of what I said. So
absolutely. You said you're very methodical about your practice rounds,
sure.
And that's a mistake. Not the being methodical, but practice rounds are a mistake that junior golfers, college golfers, and even plenty of professional golfers we've seen make, as far as not doing the right things in a practice round. And
sure.
I think it's important to treat them seriously. When you guys are going through your practice round, tell us like specifically, hey, here's what we're writing down. Like, not just we're writing down where to miss, where not to miss. We're figuring out like what makes something where to miss, what makes something where not to miss, all that kind of stuff.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, you want to find a good line off the tee first and foremost, to give yourself the best opportunity to have a look at whatever the pin is where that day. And so practice round, you kind of pick your clubs on the tee, and you hit it where you're going to hit it during the tournament. And me and Jacob do a really good job of that. We kind of treat the practice round like it is the tournament. We're just not going out to hang out with, our other buddies that are out there. And, you hit a bad shot, we're playing it from where you hit the bad shot from, because in the tournament, you don't just get to do it. Some of these guys I see in the practice round they won't hit the bad shot. They'll take it, put it out in the fairway. This is where I'm going to hit it during the tournament. And okay, that sounds really good. But in the tournament, you can't just pick it up and toss it in the fairway, So that's a big thing, I think, kind of treating the practice round like you're in the tournament. And as far as where to miss and all that good stuff, you never want to be short-sighted, all that good stuff, which is pretty obvious with what we all know. But just, you want to make it as easy as possible. I know I keep saying this, but you want to make it as easy as possible for this guy to get this ball in the hole and be able to go to the next hole confident, knowing that you made, whether it's par 4, you made 4 right decisions, how to get that ball in the hole. And, I think that's the best way to answer that. Sorry if that was a little short, but
no, that's perfect. You mentioned something that was interesting in a practice round, which is, you don't get to toss the ball out back in the fairway. You gotta play it in a tournament. You got to play it where it lies. Tell us a little bit about,
right.
Are you keeping score there or not? And then beyond that, are you guys like around the green? What is working on what does working around the green look like with different types of short game shots? Are you playing multiple short game shots? You're playing none. Putting. What are you working on with green speeds, et cetera? Especially because they hand out pin sheets, so you know where they're going to be. But given that, what are you working on around the green too?
Yeah, so around the greens, I mean, they do give you a pin sheet of where the pins were the previous year. It's not always going to be in that same exact spot. So, a lot of guys, you can kind of get the general area. And I do it I think this is old school. I don't know if it's old school or not, but I take a ball, and while he's putting to the certain pins, I'll roll the ball around the green to the certain pins and try to find, the straightest putt, the flattest putt. Where can we hit it on this green? Even if you're 20 feet from the hole, it's not a big, huge swinger. And you kind of, you mark all those things down. They're doing away. Obviously, they did away with Strakaline and all that stuff. So they're pretty particular about you not having like slope numbers and all that good stuff in your book. But you can have like arrows, which way the greens break in if they didn't draw, the right amount of arrows in there. Which, like this past week in Chile, you'd have a gnarly slope on a green and there was 0 arrows in the book. You're like, okay, that might be something we need to draw in there. We need to know that, hitting a long iron into this green. But certain stuff like that. I mean, we hit a bunch of wedge shots around the green for places that were, likely to miss. And as far as like speed and all that stuff goes, you get a good idea in the beginning of the week, in the practice rounds, how the greens are rolling, what they're doing. Obviously 9 times out of 10 in our case, the greens get super firm, come Saturday, Sunday. They don't put a lot of water on them, and they want it that way. They want you to have some dicey lies around the green. They want it to be difficult. They don't want it to be easy. Yeah, we work on the greens. Jacob Solomon is by far the best guy I've ever, like, his wedge game is unbelievable. It's crazy. It's ridiculous. The kid gets up and down from just about anywhere. I'll take him with a wedge in his hand against any guy on the PGA Tour, and that's not just saying that because I work for him. It's really ridiculous and remarkable what he can do with the wedge in his hand. So in that aspect, we do work on shots like that, but it's more in the moment. What's the best place? Where are we going to hit this ball? And it kind of all comes with tournament. You can practice all that stuff in the practice round. It's good to practice certain missed spots, but it doesn't really relate perfectly to, tournament conditions and when it's go time, when you're, trying to make a cut or trying to keep a lead or X, Y, and Z, making the best decision in the heat of the moment. So
how is he deciding like where to chip from in a practice round? And, how is he deciding where his misses are going to be or where he wants his misses to be?
So it's obviously all that's pin placement dependent, but if there's a back left pin that's 3 out the left and 23 back, you want to, and you're quote unquote going to have an opportunity to attack that pin, and say you're going to miss it a little left. We'll hit some short game shots around that area, or short of the green. Sometimes in professional golf, shorter is better than deep because you got a lot of elevated greens and stuff like that, and you're struggling to make bogey if you hit it over the green or get super short sighted. So just trying to find the spots around the green that are easiest to miss to, and find the best way to, get your ball up and down from wherever around the green. So
Absolutely. You said that he's got a great wedge game, and I believe if you didn't say it, then I either heard it from my boss who played with you guys the other week, or from Corey Magger. And one of the things that we learned about Jacob was he doesn't hit it the farthest, but obviously he has a world class wedge game. Tell us a little bit about, do you guys select your courses, the tournaments you're playing in, based on what sort of how it's going to set up for him in that regard? And then also on top of that, I know if I remember correctly, he got his Korn Ferry status this year, and so
yeah.
he's seeing a lot of these courses for the first time. Tell us a little bit about how you guys are selecting tournaments.
Yeah, so he did. We actually got hooked up for Korn Ferry finals. His college teammate Trace Crow became a good buddy of mine last Korn Ferry season, and I went and caddied. I caddied 2 first stages for 2 different guys, one for my buddy, and then I went and did second stage for Roca. Unfortunately, Roca didn't get through, so I reached out to Trace Crow, asking if he needed a caddy for final stage, and he said, I have somebody, but my college teammate needs a guy, and he got me in touch with Jacob. And yeah, we went down to Savannah, and he played some really good golf, and I think we made a pretty good team. He finished T17, which guaranteed him the first 8 starts of the year. So yeah, I mean, every single one of these courses we're playing every week, he's never seen before, and that's the same for me. I didn't start till pretty much halfway through the season last year, so all these courses that we're playing in the beginning of the year, I've never seen before either. So it's not something that we kind of say, hey, we're going to go play this, we're going to go play that. At this point, he's trying to make it to the PGA Tour, and there was some thoughts about not going to Chile possibly and not playing that event. And I told him, dude, look here, you'd hate to be that guy at the end of the year that misses their tour card by like 6 points or something crazy. And I've seen it happen, obviously. So I think he's pretty gung-ho. I'm playing pretty much all of them this year. I know he's not going to play the BMW. That's a pretty quirky tournament, which is fine with me. Is the first cut I missed ever, so I got a rough spot with that tournament for sure. But yeah, I mean, it really, we kind of just take on what the course gives us. Like you said, he's not the longest hitter out there, but the kid's super accurate. He's really good at putting his ball and seeing a target and hitting it there. So yeah, it's not kind of sort of picking certain courses. We're gonna pretty much play all of them, and we just kind of figure out and map out how his game can be best played on whichever course we have that week. So,
what was the feel like at Q School versus the normal tour events?
Man, it's a lot more stressful for sure. Obviously, you played Q School. You're playing for your career, man. You're playing for that opportunity and that dream. And if you're blessed enough to make it through pre-qualifiers, if you're blessed enough to make it through first and second and get to final stage, you really want to make a mark, because in professional golf, you don't always get that opportunity. And when you have that opportunity, you have to take full advantage of it. So it was pretty stressful, man. We kind of shot a rough first round. I think we shot like 1 over or something like that. And then you battled back and had a great second round, made the cut, and then played some really good golf on the weekend. And it's crazy to kind of relate Q School to tournament golf now, because now you're showing up. You're obviously you want to make the cut. That's a big thing, but it's not the stress of, okay, if we don't make this cut, I'm done. I don't know when my next opportunity is going to be. So it was pretty stressful in Q School, just knowing that I'm being a part of this kid's future, and knowing that if I make a wrong decision, it could cost this guy, the next however many years of playing golf. I don't know when he's going to get the next opportunity. And he was really good about, being super mature in certain situations. Hit a bad shot, it's okay. You got to be patient. There's a lot of golf to be played. You can make 1 bogey and turn it into 3 bogeys, or you can make a bogey and turn around and par or birdie the next couple holes and reel it back in pretty quick. So yeah, it's completely different, man, tournament golf as opposed to Q School, just because there's so much on the line for those guys. And playing a tournament golf, you're showing up and kind of reaping the benefits of what the tournament does for you. And you're just going out to play golf and play it at the best of your ability, post a number. And if it gets the job done, great. If not, you got more opportunities to be able to go out and do that again. So
Absolutely. when you guys finish up a tournament, like obviously we're 4 events or something like that into the Korn Ferry season, if I'm not mistaken,
6 events in.
6 events
Yeah.
in at this time. And when this releases, we'll probably be plenty more into it. But at
Sure.
this point in time, you've had some events under your belt, you've seen a little bit. When you wrap up the tournament, how do you guys like figure out like, hey, what can we learn from this? All that kind of stuff. Like, how do you determine whether it's a success or a failure? How do you learn from it? And what do you kind of take with you going to the next?
Sure. I mean, I guess where you finish is obviously a huge thing. If you finish, top 20 and, you may have left some strokes out there and it could have been a top 10 or top 5 or heck, multiple times this year, me and him have both said, there's no reason we shouldn't have won this golf tournament this week. And a lot of that comes with, being there and doing it and the veteran, I guess, outlook on it definitely helps. But yeah, I mean, as far as saying whether it was a success or not, if as long as we're able to do this every day and go out on the golf course and do our jobs, I think it's a success in itself. But yeah, as far as play and stuff like that goes, we're well documented as far as his shots over the week, and we know what we're really good at, and I think it's a mutual thing. We know some things that we could work on, and we'll talk about that, and we're open with each other. And it's like, hey, we kind of struggled on par threes this week. Let's go get that dialed in. Let's go hit on the track, man, for X amount of time, and let's see what we can do to kind of figure out if maybe, hey, we just need to hit into the center of every par 3 green and take our 2-putt par and go to the next hole. So yeah, it's just certain things like that kind of come with the experience and come with, learning through maybe doing something that you weren't supposed to do or making a decision that maybe wasn't good and just learning on that and not doing that again. And like I said before, we're all human. We make mistakes. It's going to happen. Just, trying to be professional about it and make sure you don't make the same mistake again. That's going to cost you, potentially making it to the PGA Tour or, winning or losing a golf tournament.
You talked earlier about how you got to find someone that you're willing to spend 8 hours a day with, more time than your significant other most of the time. And when it's good, it's really good.
Oh, yeah.
You guys are hanging out, doing what you love to do. But when it's bad, how do you know when to kind of give each other space or, stay together and talk it out?
Yeah, sure, man. So that's something I definitely have had to work on because I'm super competitive, man. I'm a really competitive guy, and it's easy for me to be on that side of the bag and be like, what in the world are we doing, man? Like the information's there, and sometimes both you guys played college golf, so the swing's not always there. You got little tweaks here and there that you got to figure out. Maybe it's something as small as bringing the club, outside the line just a little bit, and that could cause you to be doing X, Y, and Z. And so, yeah, I mean, in the beginning when I worked for Roca, I'd catch myself getting really mad, if we're struggling out there and, you still got 14 holes left and it's like, you've been hitting it all over the place. And it's like, what do I say? How do I kind of go about this? And I definitely wasn't the best at that at first. I kind of did what caddies are 100% not supposed to do, which is wear my emotions on my sleeve. By any means, I'm not saying I'm freaking out, telling my guy what in the world, you're stinking it up today or anything like that. It's just a matter of knowing when to say something and when to be like, hey, dude, you're we're good, man. You're here for a reason. You're obviously good. We're not out here to prove anything to anybody. You've made it this far. Let's just go play some golf. Let's do what you do. Let's go have fun. Let's make it fun. Let's act like you're playing your buddies in a practice round for, a little bit of money or whatever. And let's just go treat it like fun. And yeah, I think, and Jacob's attested to this, I've gotten a lot better about that as the year's gone on. Even just this year, I've gotten better about it. Just kind of taking things in full stride and realizing that it's professional golf, dude. You're going to make mistakes. Things are going to happen. It's how you react to the reaction, or what happens is it's what's going to take you to the next level or keep you successful. And if you make a bogey and you get bummed about it and your caddy's over there pouting and, not wanting to give you a number or he's quiet, that's not always helpful. And you're the only guy on that guy's side and they want to know that you're in it with them. And obviously, like I said, I'm super competitive. So I think the guys I work for can see that and they can kind of tell, like, he wants this just as bad as I do. He wants me to be successful just as bad as I do. And just figuring out the correct way to going about that and the right things to say in the certain situations when your guy's struggling. And it's definitely a thing where you got to be comfortable with your guy, and you spend more time together, you do more tournaments, and now I can pretty much talk to Jacob how I want to talk to him, and he doesn't take offense to it, and he appreciates constructive criticism. And yeah, you just kind of got to know how to constructive criticize rather than kind of tearing your guy down, if that makes sense.
Agreed and understood. I think that that's an important component, obviously, of being a caddy. And that was a question that Cooper was right on the money in asking, because it's hard not to do it. And I always feel like I sometimes pick on Cooper because I've caddied for Cooper. We've worked together, and I've said the wrong things potentially, or he's reacted the wrong way. One of us was at fault. But
I've caddied for one of our good friends, Ashton Van Horn, on the Korn Ferry tour.
Solid,
I did
dude.
it for three weeks. He's a great guy. But, there were times when we were sitting in that hotel room together when he just shot 74 or something, and it just wasn't helping to be together at that point, because all you were going to do was sit on your bed and stare at the ceiling and talk about the bogeys or whatever.
Yep.
And it's just tough.
That's a big thing too, man. That's a big thing as far as like, sometimes you just don't need to say anything. Sometimes you need your space. You both know, it's not, you were there together. You saw the shot together. Maybe that something was screwed up or the day was super tough, and you don't need to sit there and talk about it after, because that's just more golf that those guys need to sit there and think about, because they're thinking about it enough while we're on the golf course. So yeah, that's definitely a huge part. Me and Jacob have stayed together multiple times this year. We stayed together in the Bahamas. Unfortunately, we missed the cut in the first Bahamas event. It's the only cut we've missed this year. We were 2 inside the number on the 18th hole, and just kind of, he was pretty nervous. His first Korn Ferry event, you're out here, you're about to make the cut. All these things come into play. After the fact, we missed the cut. We're bummed, but then it's like we don't sit there and go back to the hotel room and talk about, okay, what if we would have done it? What if we would have done that? Because that's just way too much in their head. They're already thinking about it enough while we're out there. So yeah, sometimes the best thing to do is just not say anything at all, man. Just, know that your guy's good enough to be there, and just wake up another day, go out, beat some balls, and figure out what you can do better to make the situation a little bit different.
That's spot on. And that kind of leads us to another spot, which there's plenty of golf to be played, but there's plenty of things outside of golf that have to get done, and there's plenty of other things to do. What are you guys doing during the week besides golf? Like, who are you hanging out with? What are you doing in your free time?
Sure. Jacob's a big gamer. He loves the game. He's which I love. I think it's great. He'll, we'll go, whether he shoots, 65 or 74, he'll go to the hotel room, hop on COD with his buddies, and get after it. And I always make fun of him. We'll be in the hotel room, and they're on me, saying all the stuff that he's saying. I just think it's funny. I was never really a big gamer growing up, but I love it, man. It takes his mind off golf. And as far as myself goes, man, I hang out with, a lot of other caddies. I don't drink or anything like that, so I'm not a big, let's go to the bar. A lot of the guys are. That's just not my scene. That's not my speed. So yeah, I mean, just kind of taking it easy and finding good guys to hang out with, and kind of making an experience, because at the end of the day, yeah, we're all there for a job, but you got to appreciate what you're doing. You got to kind of enjoy it. It's not a vacation by any means, but if you can somehow find a way to enjoy your time, being in a different city every single week, and find good people to hang around, it makes for a good time for sure.
You mentioned earlier that you like to go out and walk the course with some veteran caddies.
Mm-hmm.
So if you see a guy in the caddy tent or on the range that has been out there for a while, how do you open up that conversation?
Yeah, so I'm very outgoing and very talkative. Anybody that knows me will tell you I'll make friends with a rock. I have always been that way, and I think it's treated me well. So yeah, I mean, I'm not shy to walk up to a guy and, hey man, how are you? Heard you're a legend out here, just kind of start shooting the crap with them. And they asked me, my story. I'm pretty new out here, and I love to learn everything I can to get better, because I want to be a really good caddy. And the best way to learn is from the guys that have already been there and that have seen it and done it all, and have rode the roller coaster ride of emotions that comes with tour caddying. And so yeah, I mean, it's nothing that's like really awkward or anything. Just walk up to the guys and, hey, how you doing? This is who I am. And by now they pretty much all know who I am. I know who they are. So they're pretty open as far as, hey man, I'd love to come walk the course with you and just kind of pick your brain a little bit, see your yardage book, see how you mark it around the greens, your spots to miss, how you're doing that stuff. And just kind of being a sponge. And like I said, I do talk a lot, but in those certain situations, man, I'd like to not talk a lot and let those guys talk and just kind of take in the information that they're giving me, because it's free game. And if they can tell me one thing that's going to save my guy a stroke or help me in the long run, that's huge for me, and that goes a long way. And I'm super appreciative of those guys to even want to teach somebody younger. And you get those guys that are kind of not very friendly to new guys, and it takes a little while to kind of even guys last year that I thought were these terrible guys that were just mean and hated the world, and now I realize that that's just kind of how they are. And they're nice to me now. It was never anything personal. It's just that's how they go about their business. They're out there to do a job, and I get that. So yeah, just kind of being friendly and walk up and talk to them.
Perfect. Tell us like one specific thing that you had with a particular caddy that you learned something from, like one particular tip that they gave you or something of that nature.
Well, I could give two things, man. And the first one's kind of funny. It's not really like a normal thing, but you go from club caddying and little things like raking bunkers. I thought I knew how to rake a bunker. I'm like, there's not a certain way to rake a bunker, and I get out there my first week, and there's a veteran caddy. His name's Chris Schwartz. He's caddied for a lot of guys. He caddied for Tom Whitney last year, just caddied for Brett White in the waste management. And he saw me raking a bunker, and it was in Raleigh in my first tournament, and he's like freaking out over in my peripheral vision, but he's not saying words. And I'm like, dude, what is this? What is this guy's deal? What's going on here? And he walks over to me. He's like, that is not how you rake a bunker. He said, you do not push a bunker in the rake. So long story short, he kind of taught me the correct way, if you will, to rake a bunker. And I was like, wow, like I didn't know like it was this meticulous. I didn't know it got down this nitty gritty. And now Jacob makes fun of me, and tells me all the time. He's like, I've never seen anyone rake a bunker the way you rake a bunker. It's kind of ridiculous, actually. Like I always hear the story about Jordan Spieth, hitting into a bunker, and he's complaining, goes back on Shot Tracer and sees who the last guy in the bunker was, and he reams his caddy because it was a terrible rake job. And I definitely will not be that guy. That would not be happening to me. You'll have a good lie in any bunker I rake. So.
Yeah, I will say I will never rake a bunker the same way after caddying on the Korn Ferry Tour, because you definitely learn quick.
For sure. The other thing I guess I could say is a guy named Darren Domain. Last year, me and Roca didn't make the playoffs, so I went and caddied the women's tour, the Epson Tour, for 2 weeks, and just walking the course with that guy. He's very, the way he looks at a golf hole was completely different than I had ever looked at a golf hole, and just certain numbers about where to miss. And he's got numbers, whether this is a 4, you absolutely cannot hit it here. This is a 1, it's okay to chip out of this, or certain things like that around the green that kind of helped me when I walk up to a green. I look at it completely different now, and I'm looking at where you can miss, and if there's a spot with some gnarly rough that you just really don't want to be in, or going over a bunker, certain things like that, that he taught me just kind of around the greens, and kind of how to approach different greens, and finding the good spots to miss and the bad spots to miss. And so Darren Domain, definitely, that was a big help for sure. And I still use that to this day in my yardage books. So
that is cool. Well, we appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today. The last question we ask every guest, and for you, it's going to be a 2-parter, and I'm actually going to make it a little unique as to the second part. So the last question we ask every guest is, if you go back to yourself as a junior golfer, tell yourself just one thing, what would that one thing be? And then for you, because you're a caddy, tell us if you could tell one caddy or a caddy who was just starting out on the Korn Ferry Tour, if you could tell them just one thing, what would that one thing be?
Yeah, so as far as if I was a junior golfer, the one thing I'd tell myself is take it a little bit more serious and kind of enjoy the ride, because it's golf's ever changing, and it's something that, you're not always going to be perfect. You only get those John Rahms and Scotty Schefflers every once in a while, and those guys obviously put the back end work into it to be that good. But just kind of stay patient with it. It's a hard game. If it was easy, everybody would do it. And don't expect greatness quick. Just kind of take it in stride and learn little things by little things. And then as far as the caddying thing goes, man, kind of the same thing. Like, just don't show up to every tournament thinking that you're going to win. Obviously, you like to have that in the back of your head, knowing that your guy has a chance to win. But if you go out and miss the cut, you can't live and die by every single cut. You just can't. It's not possible to be successful in this game if you miss a cut and your world's coming to an end. So just be patient and take it all in. Enjoy the ride. It's a roller coaster, but enjoy it. And just stay in it for the long haul. And I guarantee you, on the other end, you'll be happy that you did. So.
Awesome. Where can people find you on social media if they want to reach out to you or learn more about you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram, Brock DuPree 3. That's pretty much, I do Facebook as well, kind of, sort of, but mostly Instagram is where I do my posting, and I'm pretty active. I like to post pictures. I like to, we go different places every week, so I like to post little things. Jacob's been a highlight reel the past 2 weeks. He made a hole-in-one in Savannah. He's wet. He hit a wedge shot into the par 5 this past week in Chile, and the guy that in our Pro-Am was recording it, and he holed that out, and he's starting to not like to use a putter, which I'm completely okay with. If we're going to knock everything in with a wedge, I'm completely cool with that. But yeah, so you can find me on Instagram, Brock DuPree 3.
Perfect. Be sure to give Brock a follow, and then if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please subscribe and leave us a rating. If you're listening on YouTube, please like and subscribe. This helps us get our message out to more people. And if you're trying to find us on social media, you can find us on Instagram at The Tournament Code and on Twitter at Tournament Code. As always, we appreciate you joining us, and we look forward to diving in deeper to what it takes to play elite tournament golf.